Early in my Zeppelin fandom, I had a private math teacher out of necessity. Math was always a difficult subject in high school. In retrospect, I think it was down to not being taught applied examples of it. It's quite the irony I could understand odd meters in progressive rock and read musical notation, but high school math was just a traumatic experience. My private math teacher was a classic rock fan, and once he found out I was into Zeppelin, he tipped me off with a bootleg salesman phone number. He said, "You gotta call this guy." I was told he could fix you up with just about any recording you could imagine. Because I listened to BBC sessions and the song remains the same non-stop, I called the guy for more information. I couldn't believe there was such a thing as a bootleg, never mind hundreds of them. This would be my first and only time I paid money for an unofficial recording. The salesman told me the only quote, Leg Zeppelin stuff he had at the moment were a couple of shows from 1975. I later found out the guy ripped me off, as both titles I got were incomplete. One was a CDR soundboard for Dallas 1975, and the other one, an Earls Court DVD, which I was excited for, as my sole visual reference was the latter-day enhanced CD video snippet. It was studio version Cashmere with live footage from Earls Court. Looking at the booklet images of 1975 made me wonder. The name Earls Court was forever highlighted in my rock and roll studies. Because magazines and online Zeppelin fan websites feature photographs from these concerts, my curiosity grew big time. Based on the images alone, they seemed to be a musical milestone for the band, or maybe the pinnacle of their live show history. My DVD copy of Earls Court had low resolution artwork. It was a crappy color copy of the original, but hey, I finally got my hands on a bootleg. Actual track list on it had Tangerine, Moby Dick, Dazed and Confused, What I Love, Black Dog, and Heartbreaker. First time I played it, I was thrilled to see Jimmy Page with his famous dragon suit in action. To finally watch the band in this time period was a memorable experience of new places, sights, and sounds. But despite all the new onstage elements I hadn't seen before, the show felt a bit stiff and tired in places. I didn't see the careless bravado of The Song Remains the Same, and I had a tough time listening to Jimmy's guitar tone. It wasn't the bootleg audio quality what bothered me, but the actual energy on stage. While there were many moments of inspiration, I felt this was a blurry photograph. Now, like many of us, I had a change of heart for Earls Court, with the release of the Led Zeppelin DVD in 2003, where I finally got to see the other tracks I didn't know. The acoustic stuff was a definite highlight, a mind-blowing angle I didn't thought was possible. To watch the band up close was a luxury, a privilege for a Zeppelin fan. The image was crystal clear, and the sound mix was superb. Add in 2 numbers from Physical Graffiti and Stairway to Heaven, and I was sold on the material. Very solid performances, but my favorite from that DVD was of course Knebworth 1979. I just wish Dazed and Confused at Earls Court received this very same treatment and was included on that release. With my newfound appreciation for Earls Court, I tracked down all 5 shows through the years to understand the event's dimensions and the complete setlist that offered a very good summary of what Led Zeppelin had to offer. I have to say though, I wish they would have filmed the first 2 nights as well. Join me in revisiting one of the most visually iconic performances the band ever played in England and the monumental expectations behind them. This is the making of Earls Court 1975. First things first, Led Zeppelin only played 7 shows in Britain after 1973. That's 7 concerts in just 2 stages to play 1200 minutes of music. Their 5 shows in May 1975 at Earls Court were a triumphant and bittersweet return to the UK after conquering the United States twice. Earls Court gave British concertgoers the band's last ever renditions of Dazed and Confused, as well as the first time No Quarter was played in England, almost 4 years after it was recorded at Island Studios London, and 2 years after it was officially released on Houses of the Holy. Why they didn't play this number on their 1972-1973 UK tour is bizarre. Their home country had to wait and wait and then some. With limited concert infrastructure in Britain and critics viciously going at them, Led Zeppelin's United States dimensions were somewhat under the radar in the UK, despite their popularity. It was never an easy trail for them back home. Even Jimmy Page admitted they used to play with more confidence in the States as opposed to England, where the Rolling Stones received a better treatment in the mainstream press. Led Zeppelin fought a different kind of fight. Whether they were too Americanized or they were Vikings destined to conquer foreign lands, Earls Court was a special celebration that proved that the man was huge in the word-of-mouth world of the Dave Lewis type of fan. A piece of land where train stations met and rock and roll fans arrived, eager to watch their heroes back in the UK after the January 30th, 1973 show in Preston. British audiences had not seen John Bonham's Vistalite and Drumriser, nor Jumble Jones's infamous Onion Jacket. This is what the last UK tour looked like, a crammed-up band on stage. In short, England was about to witness two premieres in one. The 1973 Madison Square Garden band mixed with the 1975 backdrop and lightbulb theatrics. Led Zeppelin returned to the motherland some 837 days later. Yes, they took the stage at Earls Court after 2 years, 3 months, and 17 days, with 2 new albums on the shelves and many songs to play. The effect was shattering.
Hello there, welcome to the Cookability Roadshow. So, what are you ladies finding out about gas? Sonia?
Oh, we wouldn't use anything else. It's so cheap.
Dawn?
Well, it's very easy to control.
And Linda?
Do you know, these special oven linings help keep the oven clean. And all these gadgets are marvellous.
Right. And it all adds up to one thing.
Cookability, that's the beauty of gas.
I've never eaten so well in my life.
Now a historic view of Earls Court. This area became lost or wasted ground surrounded by various railway tracks. Underground train stations isolated the lot. English businessman John Robinson Whiteley traveled around the world and was fascinated with American commercial fairs. Thus he came up with the Earls Court exhibition grounds in 1887 by renting land where the old Lillibridge grounds was located. This one was destroyed in 1888 after an event was cancelled and riots thrashed the place. The Earls Court exhibition grounds was in business until 1935 when it was sold. A decision was made to build an exhibition center with an indoor pool, a feature that would challenge other venues such as the Olympia, where Jimi Hendrix played in December of 1967. As with all ambitious projects, Earls Court went over budget. It was designed by American architect C. Howard Crane, whose love for Art Deco is present in various buildings he was involved with. Earls Court opened its doors on September 1st, 1937, at a cost of almost $120 million in today's money. Now on the venue's main feature, its famous internal pool or lake. It took 4 days to fill and 4 days to empty. Retractable floors would cover the pool when it wasn't being used. As you can guess, among its many types of events held there, the annual boat show at Earls Court became a huge event over the years. And yes, this is where the Presence album cover backdrop was taken from, back when people went places to experience events. Earls Court speaks of the power of attendance. Music-wise, David Bowie was the first artist to ever play at Earls Court Arena on May 12, 1973 for his Ziggy Stardust tour, promoting both his Rise and Fall and Aladdin Sane albums. Now Bowie did not sell enough tickets and he had to play to half an auditorium with Mick Jagger and wife Bianca among attendees. Angry fans tried to run to the stage as the concert had a poor PA system. Pink Floyd followed with 2 sold-out shows on May 18th and 19th, 1973 in support of The Dark Side of the Moon, which was played in its entirety. Now the sound system for this concert was top-notch and a stage was built for the proceedings. Lucky audience members witnessed the band playing their groundbreaking piece and best-selling record of 1973. Next to play there was Slade on July 1st, 1973. They were in a successful run with their album Slade, going to number 1. Their single Come and Feel the Noise topped the charts. They were huge in Europe and finally went on a US tour in 73, but failed to really make it in America. It was a tough year to compete in North America next to, these guys. Slade's performance at Earls Court was legendary, with crowd cheers and a great atmosphere. The show was shot on film and recorded on tape. It remains unreleased as the audio was deemed poor quality. Fun fact about Slade, back when they were called the In-Betweens in 1968, Robert Plant was considered as a singer and frontman for the band. Drummer Don Powell, quote, "We all thought that Robert had such a unique voice and was a great frontman." The band's own Noddy Holder had been working as a roadie for Plant setting up his gear at local gigs. Now the band's manager told them, quote, "You don't need anyone else. Noddy Holder can do the job." One of the worst decisions in rock and roll history. So there you have it. Robert would have ended up as the voice of Come and Feel the Noise, but it wasn't meant to be. If we think about it, let's say they give Robert a chance in May 1968 when the planned Bonham Band of Joy lineup disbanded, and it's possible Slade gets Robert Plant before Jimmy Page in July. Just 3 days after the Earls Court gig, Slade's drummer Don Powell was involved in a fatal car accident where his girlfriend died, and he was severely injured, taking him off the stage for a while, and thus the group's momentum. Sounds familiar, guys? A car accident after playing Earls Court? No other band played the venue after Slade. An IRA bomb during the 1974 boat show was a dark cloud over Earls Court and made it hard for any future concerts taking place. British tax policies of early 1975 added insult to injury.
The Americans have finally evacuated Saigon in a big helicopter operation. There are said to be moves afoot for a ceasefire, and it seems that the communists have all but won the long Vietnamese War.
The Zeppelin's 3 shows at Earls Court were scheduled for the weekend of May 23rd through the 25th. Because tickets sold out in just 4 hours, 2 extra days were added for Friday, May 17th and Saturday, May 18th. The total ticket sales for all 5 shows was 85,000, almost 5 times the capacity at Madison Square Garden, a venue Led Zeppelin played 3 times on their North American tour earlier that year. A new record at the time, 5 shows in the same building, beat Led Zeppelin's 4-show mark of 1969 at the Fillmore West, Boston Tea Party, and Fillmore East. The band flew their US touring gig to England. Everything from Showco's sound system to lasers, lighting, and a large projection screen made this the biggest stage production at Earls Court back then. Just the screen alone above the stage had a price tag of $56,000 at the time. It is said this was the first time such visual aid was used in England. With their logistics partners Showco and 3 days of rehearsals, there was no room for error, thus the pressure was real. Unlike touring the States, the build-up and anxiety towards these shows made them something of a tour within a tour. This was technically a tour for Houses of the Holy and Physical Graffiti. It was sort of a residency with no crazy traveling in between. Now you could say, but what about them playing shows at the LA Forum in March? Well, it's not the same thing, as there was prior concert schedule movement that made any pre-show jitters or stress much more manageable. Earls Court was a massive emotional build-up in the birthplace of the band, in front of people they knew, in front of the love and hate relationship with critics, in front of cameras rolling and bright lights amplifying their every move. Passionate musicians always get nervous before a show. Don't believe the guys that say they don't, they're lying. Now think Led Zeppelin 1975 with the biggest selling album that year, including 6 weeks as the #1 record of Billboard. The pressure was insane, and it wasn't easy going back on the road after a 1.5 years away from the stage. It's no secret that the 10th North American tour was musically uneven. Yes, there were tremendous highlights and their stage presence remained the same, but some recurring obstacles were noticeable. Their 1977 tour is better in the sense they were hungry to come back. In 1975, they were learning to come back. With fame and fortune came the expectations to outdo themselves, like the corporate mantra of make the logo bigger. Nothing wrong with extending instrumental sections, but it is a problem when Robert Plant's new vocals are still recovering from surgery and a never-ending flu. Add in Jimmy Page's technique and articulation facing dexterity issues, plus changing his sound configuration in favor of a thin-sounding crunch. His 1975 tone is something we guitar players cannot understand to this day. It sounds way too clean for his light and shade style. Bonham's strumming was not as flashy as before, with him going for a low-key style and his alleged enthusiasm for a 70s pastime. Quaaludes. John Paul Jones was in top form as usual. Not much we can say here. The man took care of himself, I guess. Led Zeppelin rehearsed for Earls Court, but in my opinion, they should have done a warm-up show or 2. But how could they, with all their stuff already set for opening night? With their last concert back in March 27th at the LA Forum, there was a downtime period of 51 days.
Wretched cold. Thank goodness I'm going home. What I need is a hot lemon drink.
I hope she remembered, you know.
Must be Beecham's powders. A good clear lemon taste. And all the power of Beecham's powders to go on working.
For cold and flu miseries, Beecham's Powder's Hot Lemon.
Remember now?
It is rumored all 5 nights were multi-tracked and recorded on tape, with just 2 of them, May 24th and 25th, actually captured on film. Because they use a projection screen, all 5 nights were shot in real time, but recording them all for archive purposes would have been quite expensive. Would the song remains the same, an already complicated matter that remained in the can for another year? It's understandable 3 Earls Court shows were not captured on film. Fun fact though, with Jones wearing the onion jacket and Bonham reprising his black shirt Ludwig Vistalite role, I guess they took the 1973 continuity quite serious, right? Going back to the sound recording of Earls Court, there were alleged tape issues on the first night, and Bonzo's kick drum was not captured on the second night, so that made this show unusable if any future editing was to be made, such as the 2003 DVD cuts, where some bits were polished with micro patches taken from all 3 nights. Now let me just be clear, these edits were small, microscopic. The final product is in very close proximity to the actual show and shape of the original bootleg recordings. One name that sticks out from the Earls Court poster is promoter Mel Bush. He was well known in the Zeppelin circles, helping them on several dates from their UK winter tour of 1971. Bush was involved in a scandal surrounding a David Cassidy show held on May 26, 1974 at White City Stadium, London. A 14-year-old girl was crushed to death and nearly 800 people were injured. Bush dealt with the media aftermath in the best way possible. He managed to score riches again on September 14th with a show at Wembley Empire Stadium featuring Joni Mitchell, the band, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Robert Plant, his wife Maureen, and Bonham's drum tech Mick Hinton were in the audience of 72,000 people. The concert was a financial success. The after party included a late night jam with Stills and Young, plus guest stars Jimmy Page and John Bonham.
JVC stereo sophistication. JVC quartz locked accuracy. JVC stereo receiver with 5-zone graphic equalizer. JVC's own super noise reduction system. Another step closer to reality.
Jumble Jones had his keyboard arsenal of a Honor Clavinet D6, the infamous Mellotron, a Fender Rhodes, and a grand piano. Both his 4-string Fender Precision and upright bass were up there on the stage, plus his mandolin duties as well. John Bonham was back on the Ludwig Amber Vistalite and timpani in full force, and like I said before, he wore the same shirt that can be seen at Madison Square Garden in 1973. Jimmy Page had his cast of regulars plus a brand new guitar, a 1964 Fender Lake Placid Stratocaster he got in April 1975. It was used at Earls Court on May 23rd after Jimmy broke a string during Over the Hills and Far Away. He would later use this guitar on In Through the Outdoor, Napworth 1979, and his post-Led Zeppelin time with the firm. Page also had a special outfit to be officially premiered at the upcoming shows, one of the most famous pieces of Zeppelin branding, the Black Dragon suit. He used the pants at the March 27th show in Los Angeles, but that was it. Some say he wore it on March 24th, but if we take a closer look, it was the old suit from 1973. Being this outfit so heavily promoted in the media, you'd think Jimmy used it a lot, but no. Past Earls Court, he wore this 3.5 times in 1977. We have Landover on May 28th, the Forum on June 22nd, Tempe on July 20th, with Jimmy wearing the dragon pants only, and Oakland on July 23rd. I saw a Jimmy Page action figure at a record store once and told the salesman, you know, he only used it like 8 times back in the 70s. They should have gone for his rose jacket outfit instead. The guy at the store was speechless. He probably thought I was a psychopath or hardcore Zeppelin fan. With so much equipment on stage, this was a luxurious event for British audiences, as this was not a touring configuration they could take on the road back home. 5 disc jockeys were chosen for the task of introducing the band on stage. May 17th had Bob Harris from the Old Grey Whistle Test. He interviewed Robert Plant in January at Zeppelin's show in Brussels. May 18th had Johnny Walker from BBC Radio 1. He interviewed Page for the 2016 release of the complete BBC sessions. May 23rd had Radio Luxembourg's own Kid Jensen. May 24th had BBC's own Nicky Horn, who also interviewed Page in 2014. And BBC's pick of the pops, Alan Freeman himself, for May 25th.
For the civilized executive. The Princess 2 has a responsive new engine for those tedious business trips at an average of 70 miles an hour, non-stop. The new Princess 2, for a very civilized car, it's passed some very uncivilized tests.
The Zeppelin setlist at Earls Court was almost identical to their North American tour of 1975, except for No Since I've Been Loving You. I still can't believe they didn't play this. and their famous acoustic set back on stage, since it was technically cut after their North American tour of 1972. They kept one acoustic song going, Bronner's Stump, until the last UK tour of 1973. The unplugged vibes of this song were gone by the time they came back to America, with a strictly electric performance. With Robert's vocal issues of 1975, it was a smart move to bring back these songs for the best of both worlds. John Paul Jones used an upright bass for Bronner's Stump, or Bronner's Stump, or Bronwire or Bronwire Stump. I don't know what the pronunciation for this song is, guys. Sorry. The band's discography was represented with 1 track from their debut, 2 songs from their follow-up, 3 songs from their 3rd album including an electric version of Tangerine for the first time, and 4 songs from Untitled, Houses of the Holy, and Physical Graffiti. You'd think they'd replace some numbers with songs from their new record, but no. England had to wait 4 years to witness a single performance of 10 Years Gone at Knebworth on August 4th, 1979. Now talking about Kashmir, it had a weird placement after the Rain song. I believe they should place this farther down into the set because of the similarity in tempo and key to No Quarter. Because it was the British premiere of No Quarter, you wish it didn't have magnum opus Kashmir before. Encore's Whole Lotta Love and Black Dog were spliced together in a sort of radio mix to close the event. It's not my personal favorite combination. There's no way Black Dog's guitar solo beats Whole Lotta Love's iconic finale. Maybe this was done to take care of Robert's voice, but it's just weird. I really like the 1977 encore of Whole Lotta Love with rock and roll. That's 2 powerful encores joining forces to crush the stage and head out for the limo. Out of the 3 epic tracks at Earls Court, Moby Dick and Dazed and Confused showed signs of exhaustion, with the band taking these songs as far as they could up to 1973. As we'll see later on, the chemistry was there, but the element of surprise slowly faded away. 2 extra songs were played on May 25th in the ways of Heartbreaker and Communication Breakdown, which the band chose on and off on their North American tour of 1975. Now, from a British audience perspective, Earls Court wasn't that much different from what they saw in January 1973. Both had the same opener and Over the Hills in the first 3 numbers. Revisiting so many songs with such a different musical shape was a risky proposition at the mercy of comparisons and critics. Only 5 cuts from an 18-track setlist were news to English fans. It was down to the shows themselves to prove Led Zeppelin remained the same, or was sick again. Zeppelin's manager Peter Grant and promoter Mel Bush came up with the idea of British Rail to supply additional trains to get fans into London, with the British press announcing the 3-night run at Earls Court back on March 15th and 2 extra dates announced in April. Working out transportation options for the 85,000 concert goers was a great business move. Led Zeppelin's shows at Earls Court were also the British premiere of a Swan Song concert, so to speak. The first show in England of their new corporation was a big deal, a display of power and prosperity. The Zeppelin Express was ready to take the stage. A special UK-only single, Trample Underfoot, was announced on May 10th. Record stores had to buy 1 special pack of the band's entire discography to receive 5 copies of the single for every pack they ordered. This ensured there was enough product to keep the 1975 momentum going. With a limited pressing of 5,000 copies, this became a collectible item for fans, and it worked in favor of the already highly anticipated 5 nights at Earls Court.